Still morning, and a blessing to everyone for coming, and a prophecy update. And I made the statement, as I made it in the first service, of you would think this would be the most important prophecy update that I've ever done or done in the last 2 decades. And the fact is that I said to my wife, well, it's not, because we do this monthly since, get this, June 2020. That's how long we've been doing this monthly. And the power of the importance of it is we're not surprised. All the time, we're not panicked, we're not panicking, we're not scared, but we are prepared. And that's what we're going to look at today. Even though it would seem the best thing would be that I would spend the whole time talking about Israel, because as we always say, you want to know what time it is in the prophetic clock, look at Israel. And so, boy, the prophetic clock saying soon and very soon we're going to see our King, our redemption draws near. But I don't want to miss all the other pieces, because all the other pieces must be and come together. You can have wars and rumors of war, but all the pieces that come together when you look at the revived Roman Empire, when you look at the mark of the beast, when you look at knowledge increasing, all of those amplify what's actually happened in Israel. And so 3 things we're not to be unaware of, we always say, and it's God's working with the nation of Israel, so we don't get twisted up what many people do, replacement theology. Israel is the Israel that's spoken of in chapters 6 through 19, and Romans 11, all of Israel will be saved. But when we study that, not until after a horrendous period of persecution. And so are we not surprised as we watch what's pressing against them now? Spiritual gifts, may we not be unaware of the spiritual gifts, because we need the gifts of the Spirit if we're going to make any impact in our lives, our marriage, our ministries. And then thirdly, we're told, 1 Thessalonians 4, not to be unaware of his second coming. And the praise of the Lord, our King is coming. And so we do these prophecy updates not to panic, but to have a peace that God's in control. Alpha, Omega. If you missed this morning's message, I'll just put that in. Alpha and Omega and everything in between. He's holding the stars of his church. He holds his church in his hand. He holds your breath in his hand. And he's holding Israel. And that will be sure and true, that Israel will be kept. And the other pieces, we just don't know. But let's pray, and let's start with, we want to know what time it is in the prophetic clock. Look at Israel. And that's what we'll be talking about first up. But we're also given a calling, a command, an invitation. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Father, with all that's going on in the world, we can say, what in the world is going on? But Lord, I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I know when there's peace in Jerusalem, there will be peace in that Middle East. Not until the Prince of Peace comes and you set that final peace, but you tell us in between to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, Israel. And I pray as all that's raging and all that's on fire and all the rockets and all the attacks, knock them down, shut them rockets down, Lord, let them backfire, let them misfire, and all these type of things. I pray for the apple of your eye. And Lord, I pray that they would see the King. Lord, I know your Spirit doesn't have to wait until the last days for many of them to awake and to see that you are the Messiah, and that your Spirit would move. And I pray, Lord, as we've heard and seen there in the Muslim world, the Arab world, people, that you show up in dreams. Would you show up and give visions of a Messiah clothed in majesty in the white that we saw in Revelation chapter 1 today, and let them see the Messiah that can give them what their book will never. Does God love you? When they see Jesus Christ, they will know the truth of it. And so, Lord, speak to us. Let this time come together in your name. Amen. How in the world do you do something of this volume in the time that we have? But we will do the best that we can. And so, Israel, the Middle East. We always start here because this is the prophetic piece that it comes here. And we know that Israel shall be revived, born in a day. And there that is, Isaiah 66, May 14th, 1948. Let there be no dispute, right? The whole world has their eyes on Jerusalem right now, the nation that's been reborn. Ezekiel 36 says that in the last day, God's going to be regathering the people of the Jewish people into Israel. And right now, probably higher than any other time in the history of the nation. The Jewish population in the world is 14.7, closing in on 15 million. And in Israel today, that number there is 6.5 million, but it's closing in on 7. So God is regathering just as he said that he would. Well, Zechariah 12 says Israel will be a cup of trembling to all nations. And here we are. We're looking at this today and what is before us today. The center article there, Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu, we are at war. 3 weeks ago. It was shocking. Were we not all shocked? When I opened up that day, and it was just kind of a little ping and a flash, that I was like, and I said to Renee, my wife, I said, Israel, if you can believe it, has been penetrated on that massive high technology wall and fence. And I said, because in my mind, it was 2 or 3, maybe 2 or 3 dozens at the most. Then all of a sudden you start finding out thousands of terrorists penetrating and breaking through and coming into Israel. And then what we've seen, the catastrophe. This is an old article. It's almost, it's almost 3 weeks old. But I wanted to give you the magnitude of it. Israel, death toll now at 800. It's like 1,500 now. But the likening as they correlated to our September 11th was, it would be like our September 11th being 26,000 people, which now put the number in Israel, it's like 50,000 people. That's what this attack would equate to in the United States. 50,000 of our countrymen murdered. And what we see here, we see a barbaric, literally, it's demonic. That's all that this can be summarized. This is demonic. This video, I watched it, hard to watch, but sometimes you must if you're really going to relate, a companion in the tribulation. It's a video from a car dash cam, and if you played it all the way through, you would see it all the way through. Hamas penetrates up there across the Gaza there, and there's about 18 people. They all run into what is a bomb shelter. Bomb shelters all over, all over Israel. Safe rooms in all the houses. And so these people are outside, the sirens go off, they think it's rockets like normal, they don't really realize that it's human penetration at this point. So like 18 people, and the video shows it, they pile into this bomb shelter, and a Hamas terrorist comes up, corners them in there, pulls a grenade, and throws it in there. That's the coldness and the callousness to kill. And one of the motives we see behind here, and that not be missed, there's Abbas of the so-called Palestinian Authority. There's word, these terrorists, they get like millions of dollars to go kill. And one of the things we see, and the question can be had, and it will come out in time, and therefore it's not really worth it for me to, was Israel surprised? Obviously, yes. But what do I think? Was it a conspiracy that information was withheld? Was it a total, utter failure of intelligence for the greatest intel community, par with ours? Everybody's coming out now and saying, well, we gave some warning. We saw some. That's the Middle East. It's happening right now. It'd be every day there's always an amassing. There's always a threat. And before I close here today, there's always a threat here in the United States of America. There's an elevated threat of terrorism in our country right now. Why? Of course. Well, the borders are open. Why? Of course. There's a stirring of, this spirit that's moving. And what I think it was, I think it's 1973 all over again. See, Israel can't stay on guard with their 7 million people 24/7. It would just collapse the economy. You didn't even have to fight them. Part of the intent was to terrorize America September 11th, but one of their greatest victory was this devastation upon our economy. And if you would just stage a threat that you would just constantly be threatening to invade, Israel would constantly have to be on guard. Now you're taking all the people away from the factories, the technology, the everyday, and now you're not producing an economy, you're not selling, you're not distributing, and all these type of things. You would just defeat Israel economically by always being ready and stirring that you're going to invade. You see the $3 million and you see, look, Iran funds all of this. That's the thread. It will always be the thread. That's not conspiracy. You don't come up with this type of money without somebody giving you the money. And we'll talk about America giving money to the Palestinian Authority, to giving money to Gaza, which you can see they don't spend the money on their people. They spend it on their tunnels underneath their people. But the point that I make about that is terrorists get paid to be terrorists. You don't go work at the factory 9 to 5 and then meet at the mosque to train for terrorism. You're paid to be a terrorist. You train to be a terrorist. Your money that you feed your family with and house is coming through terrorism, which is coming through Iran and these various holes that they come. And so you can see why Israel, they can't stand guard. And if you read the history of Israel in 1973, that was one of the great, moments in Israel where they were invaded on Yom Kippur. It was a holiday. Everything is almost mirror. They had all kinds of warnings and build-ups and all these type of things, but it was a high holy day. Everybody was doing their Shabbat, and it was like, you want to stir everybody up, call up your arms. And so they didn't, and literally that day, Egypt, Syria invaded Israel in 1973. And there was massive casualty death, somewhere close to 3,000 just in the soldiers. And it's almost replicated what happened is they had to know there's a buildup. There's always a buildup. If we go and stand up on the wall, they'll just stand there and drain us, and this is what our life will be. That's what terror does. You know what terror is? It's wars and rumors of war. What's a war and rumor of war? What's a rumor of war? I'm going to attack you. You don't know when. A war is, I'm attacking you. A rumor of war is, I'm going to attack you, and you don't know when. And so you live in this rumor of war, which is terrorism. You can never live in a peace. So that's how this played out. Lots of things are going to come out that we'll read about this. But in Galatians 5, it speaks of sorcery, and it's demonic. But the word in Galatians 5 for sorcery is pharmakia, because drugs open up the portal into the demonic realm that the demonic spirits can come upon a person. They're continually finding. And if you just look at humans and how they are, and you look at what they did, it's not just the barbarian of killing, cutting pregnant women open and pulling babies out and leaving them to die, the barbarian of that, but it's the somehow the demonic realm is that you could come in, shoot, kill, light something on fire, burn people down, and then 2 minutes later, rape. There's just something there that is beyond anything that we could look and go, how in the world is this possible? Well, one of the things you'll see, and it will continually be revealed more and more, is the drugs that these terrorists were on. And so you pump them up with these drugs, and they're on alert, they're on their mission, and this is what you're dealing with. But amazingly, all that we read, and I said it not to be prophetic, all we got to do is read the newspaper. But as I said it, Israel has about a week to 10 days. And that was right after it happened until the world starts turning on. It doesn't matter the barbarian and horrendous crime. People are forgetting what happened because what happened is over. Now Israel has to respond to defend themselves. And here are the liberal media turning against. We're going to see governments turning against. Here's one. I verified it. Black Lives Matter Chicago. That is from their Twitter. That is a paraglider, which was used, a Palestinian paraglider going over the wall, then killing, and Black Lives Matter put this up on their website. I verified it, and they said, I stand with Palestine. So here, because they feel we relate to you because you're oppressed and we're oppressed. And so we can see these things. But Israel, forensic teams detail signs of torture, rape, physical abuse. And yet the world is turning, and the world will turn. The longer this goes, the greater it will turn, the more it will go. And here we have this, the media turning against that bombing of the hospital, even though all the signs said it was not an Israeli bomb or strike. All the media jumped on it real quick, and a lot of them won't pull back and go, look at what Israel's doing. They're bombing and killing children and pregnant women at the hospital. They're brutal. And even the President of the United States says, our intel shows that Israel was not responsible for the bombing of the hospital, but it's just this demonic flow inspired by the devil, and I want to talk about that in a minute. And but people can't get out. There's video there. Hamas bombs its own people. You know, to get to the south before coming through the north, they'll bomb their own people to make them have to stay so that they can't leave, and therefore they use them as human shields. Gaza residents say they won't. This, if you want to stay in tune, that's why I'll save you and I won't be the one to do it. But if you want to stay in tune of the misinformation and the misrepresentation, one of the brothers through the Calvary network especially, his name's Amir Safadi, and he constantly will be posting the misinformation. And this video he sent that I watched, and it was a staged actors, and it was like a bomb just hit, and he's pretty witty. He's always kind of funny when he is sarcastic and he tells the story. But in the video, if you watch it, they pick this guy up and they're rushing him to the into the ambulance. And while they're rushing him to the ambulance, you can see it, and that's what my clip is. I know you can't see it unless you really look at it. He's pointing. So they're walking. But he's trying to point to the actors what to do. The guy on the stretcher, he's pointing like, no, we're supposed to be over there. We're supposed to be over there. And then Amir makes the point of the lack of blood shows they must have ran out of ketchup because the guy has no blood on him at all. So it's staged. And I remember Saddam Hussein doing that. The Americans, they bomb our milk factories. And what it was their bomb-making factories. So he put workers in white jumpsuits, and then in English, not Arabic, he wrote milk. And so we were so for the news to go, look, man, they're bombing a milk factory. But the American intel, that's not a milk factory, that's a bomb factory. And, see what it is for what it is. And so, but even down our Capitol, that's one of our representatives down at the Capitol, they known as the Squad. She has a Palestinian flag outside her office. We stand for the Palestinians. When the vote came on the floor, these four would not call it terrorism. This is our country. These are votes. China, they said this is an injustice, what's happening that the Israelis are doing to Gaza. The United Nations chief, he says this didn't happen in a vacuum. And what he's trying to say is that Israel's oppression of the people in Gaza, that's what brought this on. They don't come and renounce the murder, the rape, and all this type of things. They kind of just go, well, Israel brought this upon themselves. And here we see the world turning on Israel, just as we thought, because here's my point for today as we go through this, is It's spiritual. What we're watching is spiritual. It isn't fleshly. It isn't about a politics. Do you know Hamas? Should I forget this? Let me say it now. Do you know Hamas is the government of Gaza? They have their own government. Hamas is a recognized terrorist entity by the United States and the majority of the world, but they are also the government of Gaza. So it's not just a battle against terrorism, it's a battle against an entity that represents these 2 million people. And so it's more than terrorism, it's a whole governing authority. Can you see Israel? That's pretty much the Middle East. There. Now can you see Israel? It's about the size of New Jersey. Yet it is it is the cup of trembling. Every president in my lifetime has tried to bring peace and they can't do it. The whole world, just as we're told, it would be a cup of trembling. And let me tell you why. I encourage you, when you go to the Prophecy Upside archive, we put it up on the top. It's called Islamic Fundamentalist. And so I won't teach the whole 50 minutes because I taught that 6 years ago. And it was based on this. This is the Quran, and I bought it for $6.99 in an American mall. And I read it, all of it. I didn't get a commentary. I didn't go to a mosque. I didn't get somebody to try to explain it to me. This is the most, what they will say, accurate English translation. So even, the devout Muslim will say this is the most accurate English translation. So for $6.99, I began to read the Quran with no help, just like I did with the Bible. Here's what, and listen to the 50-minute tape because it goes way deeper, but I want to get through all of our points because I think we should. O believer, this is surah, it means chapter 5 in the Quran. O believer, speaking of them being the believer, take not the Jew or Christian as friends. They are but one another's friend. If any of you take them for a friend, he surely is one of them. God will not guide the evildoer. $6.99. I read it. Chapter 5, verse 75. Infidels, now are they who say, God is the Messiah, son of Mary. For the Messiah said, O children of Israel, worship God my Lord and your Lord. Whoever shall join other gods with gods, God shall forbid him in the garden and his abode. Gods with other gods, it's what we call the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. They call it polytheistic, and that's why they're against Christianity, because they say, but so is the Trinity is clearly seen in the Old Testament, if you would just go with the Jewish. They surely are infidels who say God is the third of three, for there is no God but one God, and if they refrain not from what they say, a grievous chastisement shall light on such of them as infidels. Jihad, infidels. Chapter 9, verse 5. And when the sacred months are past, this is going to be jihad after their sacred fasting, kill, $6.99. Kill those who join other gods with God, wherever you shall find them, and seize them, besiege them, and lay wait for them with every kind of ambush. But if they shall not convert and observe prayer and pay the obligatory alms, then let them go their way, for God is gracious and merciful. So you get three choices when they come, and we saw it in Afghanistan. You can renounce your faith as a Christian, or you can just get up and leave your house and everything you worked for. We may or may not kill you. Or thirdly, you can stay, because everybody has a price that they can be bought, or you can stay the obligatory alms, or you can stay and pay to stay and us not kill you. So make war, 9:13. Make war on them. By your hands will God chastise them, and will put them to shame, and will give you victory over them, and they will heal the bosom of the people who believe. The Jew says Ozar is the Son of God, and the Christians say the Messiah is the Son of God. This is 9:29. Such the saying in their mouth, they resemble the saying of the infidels of God, old of God. Do battle with them, how they are misguided. Their book for $6.99 commands them to kill the Jew and the Christian. It's their commandment to do these things. Now they're fighting over a piece of land, if you would. Whose land is it? Well, Genesis 15, on the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, to your descendants I give you the land from the river Egypt, the great river, to the river Euphrates. Now, this is their holy book. They say the land is theirs. They're willing to fight for it. And Jerusalem, not mentioned. I read it. Jerusalem's not in it. I read my Bible, I don't know how many times now. Jerusalem's mentioned over 800 times. Jerusalem's not mentioned in this. Palestine is not mentioned in the Quran, and Palestine is not mentioned in the Bible either. Palestine was a slur that the Romans gave because they wanted to wash away the land. And ultimately, this is what is at stake. And as I always say it, this is what's at stake. The Messiah comes through the Jewish lineage. We know him as Jesus. The Messiah will return to where? Jerusalem. He was killed in Jerusalem, and he will return. What are you looking at? Acts chapter. As he left, so too will he come. If you can take Jerusalem out and remove it, what the devil's goal is, then you remove all the remembrance of what happened there 2,000 years ago. And that's what the goal is. Wipe out what happened 2,000 years ago. You see my borderline that I'm putting there? When you look at the size of the land, that's how big God promised the land to be in Genesis chapter 15. Israel only possesses a small fraction of that. And I think that can be a picture of our life, by the way, because we're not to neglect the things of the Spirit. I think God has so much for us, but we don't take all that God calls us and gives to us. Fear, comfort, whatever it may be. Well, Israel's the picture of that, but so is it a picture of every last one of us. But that's how big the land should be. It's what God promised to Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. But what I took and what I'm showing you is the Middle East, and I superimposed it on top of the United States of America so you can get a feel how big the Middle East is. You know what's happening in Gaza? It's a landlock. You got the sea on the one side. You can't go out to sea. You got Israel to the north of Gaza. You can't go through that. Got Israel running that whole border, right, coming down on the west of Gaza. You can't go there. That's all bordered off. And then the bottom, which is interesting enough, that's Egypt. Well, Egypt won't let them come. We're going to see that. Egypt's not going to let them come. West Bank, you could go over into Jordan. Jordan's not going to let them come. See, none of the Arab nations want these Arab Muslim believers to come in. There's more than enough land. Look at the size of it. It's not the size of the United States, but it's huge. And here's the reason. The minute you would let all the Gazans be absorbed, and I always make the point, if for whatever reason something happened and we were told Alaska is no longer America, the United States of America, it's now part of Canada, we brokered some deal, what would we do as a nation? We would absorb all of our Alaskan countrymen into America somewhere. And Alaska has way more people than Gaza. Alaska, when you take Gaza and the West Bank, you're getting pretty close to how many Palestinians there are. Arabs, better, the world calls them Palestinian. They're Arab people. We would absorb them, and then here, Alaska's yours, we're not fighting it. Well, see, none of the other nations want that, because once you let Gaza, relief, West Bank relief, then there's no more a pressure inside of Israel. They want the pressure. These Arab nations, they want the pressure because they want what we're seeing because it's spiritual. There's a spiritual realm, and the spiritual realm is to stop what happened, to erase what happened 2,000 years ago. And that's what the devil's goal is. But here you can see this month, Egyptian president rejects Palestinian refuge. Jordan king says the Middle East is on the brink of abyss, but the refugees can't come here. And so we see them retracting, and again, it's because he wants to remove what happened in Israel 2,000 years ago. Now here, in case I forget, when we get to the Magog invasion, but what we got happening right here before us is, and it's in the Islamic fundamental, the Iranians in their end time eschatology belief, they believe that their Messiah, the Mahdi, will come. So they have a Messiah. Everything, Satan, if he had an original thought, it would die of loneliness. He has to look at Jesus, look at God, and copy it. That's anti instead of. So, hey, this worked well for you. I'll copy it, and that's what we're going to do. Well, he's going to have his own, and they believe they have a Messiah coming. And so Iran, though, believes, and that's why you can see the fueling. They hate the Jew. They hate the Christian. They hate what we speak of. We read it for $6.99 in here. They hate that we say there was a Messiah and one God in three persons, and they want to see the destruction, kill if you have to. But they believe in their eschatology that their Messiah will not come back until the total world is on fire, especially the Middle East. And so what is their greatest desire? And when I get into war, this is where we need to pray. I'm jumping ahead, but Zelensky would love to see the United States get sucked into the Ukraine, because then he doesn't have to fight alone. Don't put it past him for whatever it may be. I trust him nowhere. I know he's a hero to many. I don't want to miss what he's fighting and how he's standing, but I believe he would go at all lengths, even that means a deception to the United States, to draw us into a battle that then we take over. Well, Iran would love to get us involved in the Middle East, and we're pretty close. I'll just be honest with you. When the president sent the destroyer, I immediately said, I don't support it, because I don't believe that this president has the Spirit of God upon him. And I also know that this is what Iran wants. Bring America in, and if by all means you can get some nuclear exchange going on, that would be even better. Because when there is total fire in the Middle East, the whole land's on fire, that's when our Messiah will come. And so that's what's at stake for us in the prayer life. That's why we see what we're seeing in the days that we live. But it all ties together for these other points, which I'm going to, as always, blow through at 100 miles an hour. It's spiritual. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. This is a spiritual battle. And I think there's a place, I heard it, I don't even know who he was, but he was like on CBN or something. And he says, America doesn't need, the Christians, the Western Christians don't need to wake up. We're awake. We know what's happening. He says, the Western Christians need to speak up. And this is the place for us. We need to speak up to the Lord in prayer. We need to speak up. And when the words come of these things, we're like, no, this is spiritual. This isn't some oppression. This isn't some, they're starving. There's a spiritual war that's happening. And it has all based in this book, their Quran, and say what it says. And as I say in the tape when you listen to it, there are fundamental Christians. I believe here we are. We believe the Bible's the Word of God. We believe the Bible says not to be drunkards. We believe that the Bible says, go therefore and make disciples. We believe the Bible says, be ye holy. And we do all those things in our heart because this is what the Bible says. But there's secular Christians who, well, I'll pick this one, I'll pick that one. I don't believe that. That kind of makes me uncomfortable. Well, you know what? There's fundamental Muslims and there's secular Muslims. And the majority of Muslims are secular. Now, I don't believe all that, killing, I don't believe all that. I picked this one, I don't want to pick. There's no difference of fundamental. There's a fundamental, and there was 19 of them, and I wrote in this Quran. I wrote in this Quran 6 years ago. Proof that there is proof in that 19 people believed this book. And my proof is September 11th, 2001. So when I go and I look and I say, no, there's proof that there was at least 19 who believed this and did what they did on our September 11th. And there was thousands who did it on their September 11th, known as October 7th. So, European Union has to form. I could spoke the whole time on Israel, Islam, these things, but I don't want to miss all the bigger picture, because there's a big picture. The revived Roman Empire, the European Union that we know it. And there's the European Union, the Roman Empire, shall be birthed, as the scriptures tell us. Revelation 17 and Daniel 7 notes are attached to this video. They are up, they're running. They are the revived Roman Empire that we see here. And it's interesting, and again, Zelensky, he wants to be part of the European Union. He wants to be part of NATO. And here's his very words. Ukraine to start EU membership talk. Once you become a member of the European Union, then you're a member of NATO. Once you're a member of NATO, you get the American military with that privilege. And so, but always talking about this, because we never saw the day. 2,000 years ago, people go, it's impossible. You can buy and sell with a mark. But the European Union, they're going to move to a digital currency. And that's what we have, a greenback. There's going to come a day, dollar bills and coins aren't going to matter. It's going to be digital. And it's not a credit card. It's not even necessarily a bank account. We would buy and sell. Emil wants to take me out to, I'm going to take Emil out to dinner, and I'm going to tap his phone, and I'm going to transfer $20 from my digital currency to his digital currency, and he can pay for his food and these type of things. This is what digital currency is going to do. And European Union is starting to lock down their borders, and you're going to have to use this special pass system. It's all going to be tied to your phone or some type of computerized chip. And the same, they didn't waste their opportunity for COVID, that you're not going to be able to move about Europe without this COVID certificate. And it's all going to be stored digital. So we're watching this digital. But at the same time, Matthew 24, Jesus said there's going to be earthquakes, wars, famines. Well, 600 plus days there in the Ukraine. What's my point that I want to say about Zelensky? Is not going to be second page news. That is terrifying. He's an actor. I do not believe that he's honest. There's a corruption that's clear. There's billions of dollars going in there that we have no idea where it's going. Here's what I think of Zelensky. All the power brokers of the world want to be seen with him. Biden and Macron and all these nations, we're with a man of war. Somehow President Biden feels like now he wants to be the man of war and the macho man of war. And so they want to be seen with Macron in that we're warriors with you. But here's what this is one of my, when the Swedes, I think it was, or Norway was giving them F-16, he takes his wife to go pick up. That's what the picture. He takes his wife to go pick up F-16s. I'd be taking pilots. I'd be taking my Air Force general. There's just something, and what's my point that I make is he is not going to be second page news. He needs to be front page news, and he must stay front page news. And if that takes some type of event that flips, because he knows it's already happening, and shortly the whole world will be against Israel. But if there's some type of event that can be pulled off in the Ukraine right now that brings him back to front page, he's going to do it. And so that's what's at stake for us, because he wants to draw the United States in. But here we are. the destruction that's war before the ground invasion is picking up in there. The tolls that are currently speaking of Israel, 1,400 killed, Palestinian in Gaza, 7,700, close to 20,000 wounded. Israel, close to over 5,431 wounded. This is a couple days old. And the problem is that why are you bombing from above? Because all the tunnels are below. You have to take out the building that's above because the tunnels are below. And so until you can clear the top, you'll never be able to get the bomb into the... And this is what makes this war so hard for the Israelis. And that's why we need to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. We need to pray for soldiers, these men and women who are going to put themselves in this ground war. It's horrible to think about. But here comes... we now have 2 carriers in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean, which I've pointed this out plenty of time. We have 0 in the Black Sea. So as soon as Putin came in, we took all of our boats out. We gave him the Black Sea, so now he had the run of the whole ocean up there. But here, for some reason, we're going to go and bring these. I believe one of the other great dangers is, by doing this, the United States of America now is kind of telling Israel, when we come to protect you and we bail you out, we now own you. And I think there could very well be this place after the war's over, because Iran will not be defeated, that the United States come back and go, we did a lot for you, and here's what we want now. And one of them will surely be anyone but Netanyahu. The United States, as soon as this is over, you got to get rid of him, because he's a war hawk and he'll never bring a peace. And we want somebody who's going to do a 2-state solution. Here's what you can be sure of, and may we never buy into it when we read it or hear it and it sounds good. You'll never have a 2-state solution. It's never going to happen, because they don't want a 2-state solution. They want the destruction of the people. They want the destruction of what happened there 2,000 years ago. So it's not about, they had Gaza. Nobody was messing with them in Gaza. That was theirs. Israel it's yours. Israel pulled out 9,000 settlements or 9,000 people out of Gaza. We're not even going to have 20 years ago. It's all yours. And that wasn't enough. And so here we see there will never be a 2-state solution. And as it's been determined and spoken of by many, that the Antichrist could possibly be Muslim, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. There's no way that the Jewish people would go for a Muslim Messiah. After what we just see, it's just not going to happen. So, firing through these type of things, U.S. getting drawn in more so and more so. Lawlessness, even here in America. Do you see the heart and this man in Maine killed 18? It locked 700 square miles down. You know what the economic impact of that is? But, that's what terrorism does. But here there's just this man that, what? He was on drugs. He had all this, there's a mental illness, but the mental illness was many of these drugs that he was being pumped up with for the so-called mental illness. And here's what we see. And he goes and he does this murder. Interesting, we always bring up the abortion. Federal courts going all over the place. Yeah, you can send abortion pills over into the states that have banned abortion, the morning after pill. The federal court in Colorado blocked a ban because there's another pill that you would take. Say you took the morning after pill, and then the morning after you go, I shouldn't have done that. There's a pill that will reverse the chemical abortion. And the federal court blocked it because they feel that it's, they feel that it would, it wasn't that it was a health risk, but they felt it would become a mental risk upon the woman of having the angst and all the anxiety that comes with the reversal. That's what's going on. This is all part of the callousness. This is, and you can see my site that I took it from, a university. This is one of the earliest Planned Parenthood's pamphlets. Your baby's needs. And it goes through this pamphlet about how to plan your family and all these type of things. I should have circled it so you could see it. But here's what it says. I quote Planned Parenthood. The question is it an abortion? And it says, no, it is not an abortion. Abortion kills life when it begins. This is a Planned Parenthood document, and in it they clearly says abortion kills life when it begins. The note is out there, and you can get a better picture of that when the files get posted. But that's what we're living in. Canada, they're going to legalize medically assisted suicide for people who are drug addicted. So if you're on drugs and you feel like, I just can't take life anymore, if you go in, they'll go, oh yeah, well, you can take your life. Do you see the insanity of that? Because the insanity of that is, how can you make a clear decision about ending your life if you're on drugs? So right above the border, that's what's going on. One world government, one world religion, false prophet, Revelation 13, Revelation 17, notes available there. United Nation on the rise. Strange thing that you see and you'll be hearing more of. Throw it out on the radar and we'll start tracking it. Transforming our world to 2030 agenda for sustainable development. And you can see the Secretary General who blamed Israel for what's happening, the terrorists. He says, in the end, it will come down to value. We want the world, our children, to inherit, to be defined by the values enshrined in the United Nations Charter, which is peace, justice, respect, human rights, tolerance, and solidarity. Unless you're Jewish. No organization has voted. They have voted more against Israel and anything Israel has done in the last 20 years. This United Nations still has not rebuked Vladimir Putin for invading and the martyrs that he's doing in Ukraine. This is our brother and sister, Calvary Chapel, San Jose. What I want to talk to you about a one world government is they were tracking geofencing. So they were using the geofencing to see everybody who was coming to church in San Jose during COVID. And then they started sending out their fines. And then they were sending out fines. They go, well, our geofencing showed this density that you weren't, what was it called, social distancing. So here's my point is there's no privacy with this thing. And you can see how it will be used as this technology. Iniquity, sin will abound, 2 Timothy, Matthew 24, Luke 9:19. Governor Newsom lowers consent age to 12 for gender counseling without your parents. Planned Parenthood is helping teenagers transition after a 30-minute consult. Parents and doctors are sounding the alarm. America, sin abound. 500 children go missing every year. 500 online sexual predators are active every day. Over 80% of child sex crimes begin on social media. Globally, 20% of human traffic are children. There's 150 billion a year criminal enterprise in sex trafficking, and the United States is the #1 world for sex trafficking. Clemson University, they are upset because the school removed feminine hygiene products from the campus men's room. Yeah, that's just what the news says. Biological men take gold and silver at Chicago women's cycle race. Apostasy, the great deception. As we're watching iniquity and the madness about us, we're not surprised. We know what's going on. We see that this is spiritual. Well, there's going to be a great deception. Some's going to depart from the faith. False teachers are going to rise and say it's all okay. People will mock the last days. And here, people know you're talking about that there's going to come a rapture. They think we're all crazy. Well, Adam Stanley did what we said he was going to do. He had that conference, and it was pro-LGBT enhancing, supporting, and by no means did he come and bring down and go that it's a sin against a holy God. He says it in a watered down way. The craziness here, the devil wards, two so-called Christian artists, three when you count them. One of them is transgender. She mocks Amy Grant, calls herself Flamey Grant. You can figure out what that means. The other two, they dressed in drag as a support. These are Christian artists, and people were following these Christian artists. Sin abounds. And we said, you see my last one there, new Pentagon memo reveals almost 300 reports of potential UFO encounters since August. We got a website for our Department of Defense that says we're tracking UFOs. Goldie Hawn says an alien touched me and it felt like the finger of God. It's demonic. That's what we know it is. It's demonic realm. It's Genesis 6, the sons of God. It's Ezekiel 10, these demonic beings. And here's a great one there. I think this is in Norway. But up to 41,000 cows may have to be put to death to mitigate the dangerous methane level, because cows pass gas, and so that methane then is harmful to the climate, so they want to kill cows to limit the impact on it's madness. People are starving in the Sudan. There's people starving in Glen Burnie, and people want to kill cows so that we can climate change is a god, and we keep tracking that. Knowledge shall increase, Daniel 12, and we see this, we continually track it. It's artificial intelligence, and the thing, just to pick up one of the things, is this artificial intelligence now has the ability, after my voice has been put on the internet so many times, right, with our podcasting, it could run its little artificial intelligence, and it could take the words and piece them together, and then they could make a robocall and call you, and it's going to sound just like me. Hey, this is Pastor Ray. One time, I think I just came back from India, and I landed, and as soon as I landed, my phone popped up, and it was from a pastor friend of mine on the Eastern Shore saying, hey, man, I'm in serious financial means. I was on a mission trip. I'm stuck in Sudan, and I need a couple $100 to get out. Can you send me money via Google Pay? And that immediately I go, but man, it was his website, mirrored it, hacked it, and the response would have went right to these hackers and all these type of things, and then I had to call him. I go, hey, I got bad news for you. Well, now it's going to go greater than that. It's going to be robocalls. It's going to sound just like somebody going, hey, I need this. I'm in this type of trouble, and it can even mimic your face. What's my point that I'm going to make? If we don't know the scriptures, and if we don't have the Spirit of God to speak to us, we will fall for all of these deceptions. The world's going to fall for these deceptions because the Spirit of God's not going to give them discernment. We need to be, something's not right. It sounds like you, it looks like you, because they can take a picture of any one of us and then superimpose it, do the Forrest Gump thing, and then all of a sudden it goes, wow, did you see that? So-and-so was, so-and-so was, there's a picture of him with, 32 beers lined up, all empty. And then you go, man, I thought he was the pastor, or whatever, fill in the blank. Or the cache of money. Look, we caught him red-handed. He's got thousands of dollars that he stole. That's the danger that we see. Well, the Magog invasion's before us. Ezekiel 38:39. What you're seeing is not the Magog invasion. 7 minutes. Can we do it? I know it can get long, third service for some of you. The Magog invasion, Russia, Iran, Turkey, all together. Well, we're seeing it more than ever. What I want to say, though, is this is not the Magog invasion. This will not be the Magog invasion if Lebanon comes down. That's going to be something totally different, but it's all a birth pain and a preparation of these type of things. But what we see, Iran helped plan the terror assault. This is Wall Street Journal. Turkey's Erdogan, Hamas, aren't terrorists. They're mujahideen defending the homeland because he believes this. He's a wild card. Turkey's a wild card in the NATO thing and in the European Union. I will project that he will leave the European Union. Whether he leaves NATO or not will be dependent upon what he thinks the advantage is, but I think he will leave NATO as well because there's going to be an alliance that he's going to become more aligned with Russia and Iran. But he's an Islamist and he's a fundamental. He believes this Bible. So he hates the Jews. And you know what? He's going to hate the Christians too. And here was yesterday, whether it's real or not, there's question. Erdogan tells pro-Palestinian rally. And, so it's national news. That's why I say misinformation, all this. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Thousands of millions read these things. And it says Israel is an occupier and a war criminal. Some articles have come out and said that he will join the war and fight against Israel, which he will if he's the one when Turkey comes to invade Israel. But I don't think we'll see him involved in what's happening right now, but we'll watch. But here we go. We got Iran, we got Turkey, and here's Moscow. Host Hamas delegation and Iranian deputy this week. It's right here. They're the pieces, the players, they're all here, and they all are showing this thing. I hate Israel, and they're all going to hate us. There's a nuclear submarine that that Russia has. It could be 3 miles off our shore right here on the Atlantic coast. We wouldn't know it's there. The temple's going to be rebuilt. Antichrist's going to go in. All this is a flow. Man of peace, so-called, he's going to broker peace while the world's looks like it's on fire. He's going to broker this peace with Israel and these Arab nations. They're going to come down and the world's going to be on fire. They're going to look for a fix-it man. Well, he's going to come as the Antichrist. The world's going to follow him and he's going to rebuild the temple. He's going to go in and say that I'm God. He's going to present himself as God in the rebuilt temple of Jerusalem. And it's not too far off because some of the terrorists, one of the reasons they said they did what they did on October 7th was because they're saying that Israel desecrated the temple just by being there. Well, it's because they read this book. And Erdogan of Turkey, he wants the Temple Mount. That will be his ultimate goal of Jerusalem. He wants the Temple Mount. He wants to preserve the dome, El-Aqsa, and make it a Jewish and make sure there will never be a temple. It's all spiritual. And where's America? No scriptures for America, but boy, there's some things that really can become really concerning with America. One of them is, I'll tell you what, you can send your destroyers and stand beside Israel, but if you gave Iran $6 billion, Barack Obama gave them like $400 million, that's just what we know. And that money was funneled to terrorism. God's favor is not going to be upon America. Where's my article? That's U.S. makes deal with Iran to swap prisoners and release $6 billion in frozen money on September 11th. That's when this president would do that, on September 11th. It's not even a month later. Here's what we watch happen. Iran praises Hamas attack against the Middle East. Last week, Biden admin allows the UN sanctions on Iran to limit their capabilities for a ballistic missile. He let that expire. Here these people want to destroy Israel, and he did not extend all the sanctions against them. It's just more money, and it's just more flow going in there. I said it somewhere today. I think I said it in the service. Our Homeland Security says, all the way from FBI, Homeland Security, FBI director warns about rising threat of Hamas-style terror attacks coming to the U.S. That's the FBI. And breaking, FBI director, this is a video, says, grave warning, imminent terror attack of American soil amid Israel-Hamas conflict. Because we have hundreds of thousands that are in the country, we have no idea where they are, who they are, and they have links to terrorist organizations. So America, mark of the beast, we've talked. this rise of technology. And the thing about, you can see, everybody get that flash about, I forget what day it was, maybe 4 weeks ago, and your phone popped up and it had a national alert. Everybody in this room got it. Anybody not get it? Case in point, everybody got it. It came to your phone because it overrode everybody's do not disturb, because it was a national alert to test that they can send out a national alert. Sounds good. Problem is, I didn't ask for it. You didn't ask for it, and yet they could still deliver it. And so there's a technology that all this is weaving together, and we talk about artificial intelligence and how these, and we're going to see this continual development of a digital currency as part of the mark of the beast. We're going to see a revived Babylon, Revelation 14 and 18. Don't know how all that plays together, but it's in the Middle East, and therefore it's all going to be a peace, and the pieces are coming together right now, no doubt. And then the Battle of Armageddon, the kings of the east coming against the Antichrist and his forces, Revelation 9:16, Daniel 11, the 200 million man army, and the kings of the east. India has just surpassed the China as the largest nation, but China has no problem with the 200 million man army. But in the end, we know the good news: Jesus wins. Our God rules. But we do this so that we might have peace. It's not falling apart on us. It's not out of control on us. And there's a priority. What's important for us based on what we know? We're not scared, but we are prepared. We understand what's going on. We always talk, there's a purity that, Jesus, when you come back, may you just find a spotless bride. And there's proof that this Bible was inspired. You can't put these pieces together. A nation being born in a day 2,000 years later without a homeland, and there Israel is, a mark to buy and sell, but then there's a place we preach. That's what the beautiful feet are that we tell people. And we have found ourselves, church, in one of the greatest places, because as the world continues to burn, it does give opportunities to speak to people. This is what's going on. Let me share this with you. Hey, check this out. But I can't give a message like this without closing. Anyone that's listening online, you might be thinking, well, what's your thing, this thing you're talking about of the devil wants to remove what happened in Israel 2,000 years ago and wipe out the picture of the cross. And it's real simple. It's ABC. That's the gospel. All sin falls short of the glory of God. But if you believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, you'll be saved by the repentance of your sin. And the C is confess. If we confess with our mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in our heart that God raised him from the dead, we'll be saved. He'll cleanse us from the sin that separates us. But we have to turn and follow him and say, here I am, Lord. So we invite anyone to check us out online, check out the Meaning of Life page, send emails if you want to ask questions or phone calls, and we'll talk to you. But it's the most important decision that you'll make. And I would say today's the day to make it, because we know not what tomorrow may bring. So this is where we shut down that live stream.